Welcome to I May Be Wrong.
I don't know what this world is coming to,
but I don't think so. We're broadcasting from the greater Nashville area, the home of country music, beyond the borders of political correctness and identity politics. Facts and faith are our demarcations. Truth lights our path.
Here's the Barry White of Podcast Radio,
the Venerable Alfonso Ashworth.
Well, welcome to another exciting episode of I May Be Wrong, but I Don't Think So. Of course, we are broadcasting live. You can join us at I May Be Wrong, but I Don't Think So.com. For this episode, we also are honoring and recognizing that this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And for this episode, and maybe this episode only, we are broadcasting live on Facebook. So if you can catch the show there, follow us there, let us know what's happening. If you want to join us in the chat room that we call the Furnace. You can go to also follow us on Facebook at I May Be Wrong, but I Don't Think So. Join us in the chat rooms and let us know what you're thinking. We have a great guest lined up coming up on the show. Just in a few minutes, we're going to get him on air. He's traveling. He's a very, very busy brother, but we're welcoming, of course, Walter B. Hoye the second. He's going to be our calling guest today. Look, we do a lot of programs. We have a lot of things happening out there. There's a lot of activity, a lot of moving parts that's going on right now with the president, with impeachment. There's so many things to talk about. Look, somebody just asked me, or the question was asked, and I may discuss this at a later point. Do black liberals and progressives hate, and hate is a strong word, but do they hate black conservative Trump supporters more than they hate white supremacists? I mean, that's a very, very good question, and it's a very strong argument to be made about that. And at some point, I'm going to address that issue head on with that issue, and we're going to talk about that issue at some point. And I think it's warranted. I think it's a very valid question, and I think it's warranted to ask that question. But of course, we got some other issues that we are addressing. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. We are going to recognize that today and going forward throughout this month. There's a lot of people dealing with that as a disease. I personally know what it's like to deal with these issues. My mother, God rest her soul, she's been gone for many, many years. Breast cancer struck her at an early age. And so I know what it's like dealing with that as a family member. And I also know what it's like to be in a clinic and dealing with that on a personal level. So, of course, we want to continue to recognize those that are dealing with those issues. And we are here. Of course, I want to welcome to the show this young man that's with a Issues4life Foundation. Now, the Issues4Life Foundation targets and works directly with Black American leaders nationwide to strengthen their stand against abortion on demand and resolve the questions surrounding the bioethical issues that impact our community. They are committed to protecting both the civil and human rights of the child in the womb by recognizing the inherent dignity and the inalienable rights of all members of the human family, so that in law and in practice, every life is valued. Of course, I want to welcome to the show Mr. Walter B. Hoye. Welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, man, how you doing?
Man, I'm hanging in there. I'm fighting the good fight. I'm trying to carry the torch that you and others that have come before me that have been working very hard to deal with these issues that we are facing in our world today. So, of course, I introduced you, of course, as being part of Issues4Life. And tell the audience something about what you do and why it's important.
The Issues4Life Foundation is dedicated to reaching Black leadership regarding the life issue. And we do it all across the country, all up and down the nation. We're very successful at it. We've been very good at it. It's been really an uphill battle, but we understand that the reasons why Black leadership often rejects the pro-life movement. And when you understand the real reasons why you're being rejected or you're not getting the answer you want, it makes it a whole lot easier at that point to put together a strategy and move forward. So we've just been blessed to be called to this type of ministry.
And you've been recognized by other leaders. Of course, you embody the Martin Luther King Jr. legacy, and of course the nonviolent movement. And of course, Dr. Alveda King, his niece, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece, has recognized you as well as part of this movement. And you've been, I've met you, I think, in D.C. A few years ago through Lonnie Poindexter. And you were at one of the events there, and we briefly met. I don't know if you remember me, but of course, I was so fascinated by what you were doing then. What is going on now in the Black community and by and large in America as a whole as to why people will not deal with this issue about abortion, particularly in the Black community?
Well, what's going on today is that people are beginning to realize that there are personal reasons why someone is saying no, they're not for the life issue, and more and more that's becoming a reality as the abortion industry is clearer and clearer and clearer. They know it's about murder. They know the life of the child in the womb is real. They know the child in the womb has been created by God. They know they're literally taking the life of an innocent human being. And the more and more clear that's becoming, and it's being bold now. I mean, no matter where you look across the country, it's out there clearly. More and more Black leadership, is coming to a point where they're saying, "Oh my goodness, we've got to do something about this," and so we're glad to see this happen.
Well, and I was looking, of course, at some of on your website at Issues4Life.org, and people can go there and find out exactly what it is that you're talking about and what you're doing. What blew me away are some of the statistics, some of the data that just slaps you in the face. And one that stood out to me was that abortion kills 109% more people in Black America than all 13 other leading causes of death. I mean, it just slapped me like silly when I read that. Talk about some of those statistics that many Americans either don't know or don't really find out.
Oh my goodness, this is one of those releases that really caught the attention of the brothers nationwide. I mean, we took abortion industry data, not pro-life data, not data from the pro-life movement, but data directly from the abortion industry. We're talking about the Alan Guttmacher Institute. The Guttmacher Institute is the not-so-former research arm of Planned Parenthood. And Alan Guttmacher himself, years ago, was president of Planned Parenthood. And this is the willing to admit to, and I have to come back to that because we caught them lying in 2008. But for right now, the press release that went out talked about how abortion in Black America is the number one cause of death. The number one. I mean, you can talk about heart disease. You can talk about cancer. You can talk about strokes. You can talk about diabetes. It doesn't matter. When you look at all 13 leading causes of death in Black America and you combine all of them together, there is still more abortion in Black America than it is all 13 leading causes of death. And when we put that out, oh my goodness, I'm still getting phone calls about that.
And you know, for me personally, I've fought this issue along with others, yourself, Lonnie, and the people that I met in Washington and all over the country really have fought this issue. How do we get this message to penetrate the average person in our community, not just the pastors, not just the politicians, but the everyday American that really doesn't realize how it affects not just this generation, but generations to come? What is your foundation doing to go directly to that audience?
Well, there are a couple of things what we're doing. One, we're literally in the street. Matter of fact, that's how we got started. I was standing outside an abortion clinic, and I was holding up a sign that said, "God loves you and your baby. Let us help you." And the sisters were sort of shocked to find a pastor. They all knew me. They all knew I was in the church, and they all knew I was preaching. And the sisters, we were standing outside an abortion clinic. You got to get the stage set here. And they would walk up to me, and they'd recognize me. They would literally say, "Hey, preacher, is it true that God loves me?" And I said, "Yes." And they said, "Well, if it's true that God loves me, does God love my baby?" And for the sister, it was her baby. It wasn't, a clump of cells. It wasn't fetal tissue. Sister said it was her baby.
Right.
And then she said, "Well, if it's true, if it's true that God loves me, and if it's true that He loves my baby, will you help me?" And that's what we did. It was phenomenal what happened. I mean, at one point, there was one day the clinic had 27 appointments in this 2-hour time span. There's no way they could do 27 abortions in 2 hours, but they were just stacking them up, and they were going to have them sit there all day if necessary so they can get their business in. Well,
Wow.
the sisters were coming for an abortion. They were coming because they heard it was a black preacher standing on a public sidewalk, and I was literally helping the women. It didn't matter if they needed a place to stay. It didn't matter if they needed a doctor or a nurse. It didn't matter if they needed groceries. As a matter of fact, the best assignment for me, the one I liked the most, was when she wanted me to talk to her boyfriend.
Oh, okay.
My goodness, I enjoyed that one. But you have to have some part of your ministry that's actually out in the public square. And I think that's one of the things that you're just going to have to do, and you're going to have to get good at it.
Well, and I know you've gotten good at it, to say the least. And I know that your ministry is very effective. And, of course, it takes resources. This is not something that one individual can do and do on a level that you've been able to do it. The resources, how do you mine for those resources? People hate to talk about that part of it, but this is not free. I mean, travel, getting from one place to another, gathering people together, and then marketing to them and getting them to come out. Where do you get your resources by and large to do this?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. We were just talking about that. I just got back from Washington, D.C. We were talking about that in D.C. It's a combination of things. One, my wife and I have personally made the sacrifice to download our lives. And so we've reduced our cost of living down to the bare bone. And I think that's critical. We run a 501c3. We're one of the maybe, less than a handful of black 501c3s in the country dedicated to just this one issue, dedicated to the pro-life issue. There are black pro-lifers everywhere. There are a lot of black pro-life organizations, but when you start looking at organizations that are just one issue, single issue organizations where they live off of the organization, there's only maybe a few of us left in the country. And the way we've done it has been, we've reduced our cost of living significantly. And I wish I had more time to talk about that. And then we have appealed to the larger pro-life movement in ways that has allowed us to become supported. financially. And so that's key. And there's some programs that we do right now that are really are exciting, really are highly effective. And because our living expenses are so low, so very low, it's allowed us to do some things that would ordinarily be able to be done.
Well, and that comes back to the personal sacrifice. If you're passionate about something, if you believe in something, then that personal sacrifice becomes much easier to reach. And your wife and yourself, y'all come to that point to where it's like, this is so important that my living space does not have to be, 10 times what it was, or I don't need that much to get to the next place. How do we get the next generation, these millennials, who are so self-centered and so selfish in how they've been raised? How do we get them to get involved with organizations like Issue4Life? And of course, if you want to go to Issues4Life, you go to Issues4Life.org, and you can, that's issues, the number 4, life.org, and you can find out more about what Walter Hoye and others are doing. But how do you get the millennials, and I'm talking about the 35s and under, that age, how do you get them to get involved?
Well, it's interesting. The millennials will really sit down and talk to you about the issue. They're not afraid to get into a discussion. In the past, many people didn't want to talk about it, but the millennial generation, they don't mind talking about it. And if you've got indisputable facts, if you have indisputable data, then you can begin to get into the conversation that you want. For instance, not only do we have these facts, these press releases, we've got these op-eds, we got all of that, but we also have video. And some video I literally carry on my phone. So I could be in a discussion in public square. I say, hey, man, you got 5 minutes, and I'll pull up this video literally on my phone, and we'll sit and watch the video. There's one video that is a group of embryologists. The credentials are unquestionable. And they're looking at a video we created for the younger generation, for millennials. And it talks about the science behind the creation of life. And it's undeniable. And it's been highly effective.
And that too touches my heart in a lot of ways, because it's amazing to me how people that were given the opportunity to live and to have their lives and to be productive, how they're so willing to stand on the sideline and watch millions of babies. And I'm talking 20 million probably in the black community alone. We're talking 60 million over the time that Roe v. Wade was instituted. But we're talking 1/3 of that has been black babies. And, there's no other way to cut it. I can't cut it any other way. I can't measure it any other way than by the facts. Dealing with those facts, that it has been so many babies aborted in the black community, how has that affected our ability to be relevant in the political spectrum?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, this is something that we get asked, quite a bit. Let me put it this way. The harsh reality is that the victims of abortion are disproportionately Democrats. We've done some studies, and this is again data. 25 states, mainly Republican, account for just about 10% of all abortions, but the other 25 states account for nearly 90% of all abortions, and with few exceptions, they're traditional Democrat. In other words, there's going to be at least 4 million missing voters in 2020 as a result of just abortion. I mean, we take a look at this 2.8 million lives that have been lost to abortion. These are 2.8 million votes that would have probably been than Democratic votes. And so we call this a demographic suicide. We're not only it's not only the number one cause of death in our community. For instance, it's 42 times the number of homicides.
Wow.
And whether it's black and black or black and white, it doesn't matter. You can put all of them together, and it's 42 times that abortion all by itself.
42 times. And I just put that slide up on the screen so people that's listening and viewing this can see it, that black abortions kill more than black Americans than black homicides, 42 to 1.
Yeah. So when you're particularly when you're talking to millennials, they'll look at that. Oh my goodness, where's the data? We here's the data, and oh my goodness, the data's from a source that they trust, and now they're having to rethink it. We're taking a look at the hard data now, and then when you start looking at the impact of abortion in terms of these lives would have been voters. Oh my goodness, you're taking a look at the demise of our own community. And then there's one more thing that we do. We talk about the total black fertility rate. And when we start talking about that,
wow,
oh my goodness, I can drop the mic at that point. I mean, that's an incredible subject there, the total black fertility rate.
I've had other guests that have talked about the fertility rate, and I've talked about it in demographic terms as far as the United States, demographically, how we're declining compared to other countries. Talk about that particularly with the black community in the birth rates versus other races.
Oh my goodness. We've got studies that date back all the way back to the 1850s. And this is a governmental studies. And we go back as far as we can, the birth rate was 7.9 children per woman. That was our total fertility rate. But 100 years later, get up to 1950, it's down to about 3.6. That's about a 54% decline. And then if you keep on going, by the time you get up to today, we're looking at a total fertility rate of 1.8. Now, here's what you have to understand. In order for any demographic, any group of people, in order for your family to continue to exist, the women have to have 2.1 children. You have to have 2.1 children. Otherwise, you won't exist anymore. And so the total fertility replacement level is 2.1. And right now, Black America has been, not just as of right now, Black America has been for years now under that replacement level. And if you calculate, if you work the numbers, if we don't change how we abort our children today, if we continue aborting at the same pace we do now, not any more, not any less, just the same pace we do right now, we got about 30 years. We got until about 2050 to when the black fertility rate can drop down to 1.3. Now, when we get down to 1.3, Doc, we're talking about
extinction,
irreversibility.
Yes, you're talking about no more culture, no more. Just like the Mayans, you're just gonna disappear from the human race, and no one's gonna know what happened to you. It's like, well, I don't know what happened to them. What they stopped having enough to replace their race, and that's what it boiled down to. Okay, we got about a minute, 2 minutes. Walter, tell my audience, one, how can they help you, and where can they find you?
I appreciate that. They can go to www.issues, and that's plural, Issues4life.org. So altogether, that's www.issues4life.org. And there they can find out all about what the Issue4Life Foundation does. Plus, in the top right-hand corner, there's a library. And the library we have for the leadership, they love to come to our library. They get tired of the mainstream data. and they come to our library, and oh my goodness, the information that's available in the 3 floors in our library is just phenomenal, and we get hits on that all day and all night.
So they can go to Issues4life.org, and in there's a library, there's information, there's data, and how can they help you financially?
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
And of course, they can help you there from the website. They can just go there and find out what they can do, support you, support what you're doing. And I tell you what, I really appreciate, I know that you just got off the plane, and I knew you were a very busy, very, very busy man. And Lonnie Poindexter, I want to give him a high five for helping me connect with you, because I really appreciate you coming on the show. And I want to tell you, from me and my audience, God bless you, and God bless the work that you're doing.
Man, we're on the same team. God bless you, and we'll talk again.
All right. That was Walter B. Hoye II. Of course, he's a very, very busy person in the pro-life movement, particularly in the black community. And as we're saying, we're recognizing that this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. This kicks off the campaign. Make sure you recognize what's happening in this area with the cancer. Look, this affects everyone. I don't know a family, I don't know anyone that has been affected, that has not been affected by this dreaded disease, and particularly when it comes to breast cancer. As I said earlier, my mother, who passed away at the tender age of 34, she had breast cancer, and I know other people in my family that have fought this disease, and I know that if we keep doing this together, we're going to find a cure for these things. I know people that'll say, well, the doctors, they don't want to cure cancer. And I know that the medical pharmaceutical companies are in cahoots, but you're talking about people with families. These people have children, grandchildren, parents. Do you really believe that they would undermine their own family members? So I'm not buying it. Yes, the drugs are too expensive. Yes, the cost of care is too high, but that is another issue. That's a whole nother issue than to say that somehow these people are doing this on purpose. Now, we're going to talk about that. I do have someone coming on later that's going to be talking about health and wellness, and they have a thought in that area about the pharmaceuticals and about what's going on. Now, of course, if you want to help out my show, you can go to I may be wrong, but I don't think so.com. Go to I may be wrong, but I don't think so.com. If you would like to sponsor, or if you'd like to donate to the show, or if you would just like to listen in and find out what we're doing, become a subscriber to the show. And that way you can join us in the chat rooms, and you can join us on the website. We have great guests coming for the rest of this cycle. We got a lot of people coming on that's going to be talking about different issues that are related to what we're dealing with. Look, all this stuff that's happening in Washington, all the things that are happening in Washington, they're going to continue to happen until we, the voters, just get tired of it and stop fighting one another and come together and get the people in office that will do something about the problem. You don't have to like them. It's like I asked earlier. I have people who have shunned me because I support Donald Trump. Just on that issue alone, they will shun you. And that's insane. That makes absolutely no sense. But of course, I want to thank everyone that has helped out on the show today. This show was and is broadcasting live on Facebook Live today. That's not going to be regular. That's not the way we're going to do the show. But I decided to do this to recognize, one, that kicking off the breast cancer awareness program, and two, to let you hear some of the show of what we do. We got a lot of things happening on a lot of moving parts on the show. So, of course, we want to thank you. I want to thank all those that support the show. have the furnace as our chat room, and we have those that are the chosen. And of course, I want to thank everyone that's listening in. God bless you. God bless America. And peace.
You've been listening to Alfonso Ashworth, the Barry White of Podcast Radio. Go forth and share his message. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Remember, no two people can ever occupy the same place at the same time. You were uniquely and wonderfully made. Born an original. Don't die a copy. God bless. Peace.
You can set limits, track purchase.